Van opening. Welcome, everybody. I played the wrong opening. Hey, you're joining us right in the middle of a story. Phil just asked me and Howie if we could smell something over the phone. I don't know. I think I did smell it. Welcome, everybody, to this special edition. We're going to wrap up Media Days, talk a little bit about Media Days. Uh, have a good time for the next hour. Phil, one question before we get into each individual teams. Lot of hype this year in DeKalb and Jackson County about where some football teams could go.
Oh, definitely. So, especially when you're talking about Collinsville and Fife, Valley Head may be just as good as they've been. Pisgah, even Scottsboro has high expectations. So there is a lot of hype around a lot of teams. Some teams may not be quite as good, but, winning breeds winning. And when it becomes a habit, everybody that has won in the past is dangerous.
Absolutely. And a lot of these teams have won. And there's a couple of situations, Howie Chain, that we were talking about and that Phil brought up. They're trying to establish, or they're trying to grow, or they jump into a different higher level. There's some challenges out there for some people this year, too.
Yeah, there's some challenges out there for a lot of people, but also you got to realize that with Fife and Collinsville moving up to 3A, you got Fife, Collinsville, Geraldine, and Sylvania all in the same region. And so that's going to take some playoff teams out of DeKalb County possibly, but it could leave some in as well because those four teams could very easily be 1 through 4 in that region. And so it's a lot of changes going on, but it's in a good sense.
Well, and we're going to start with one of those teams. We're going to start with the Plainview Bears, Phil, and Coach Pruitt, Coach Dale Pruitt wasn't there, and so Jeremy Pruitt represented him. And Jeremy had a little clip about Luke, but I want to play it because I think it's funny, and then I'm going to ask you about some expectations there.
Luke has obviously done a really good job at Pisgah, where he took that program over. I think he's probably still celebrating that Fife moved up to 3A. Then he started looking for ball games, and at one point he said, "I think I may have to play Fife twice." And I asked him, I said, "Have you lost your mind?" And but he needed a game, and they'll have a good team. And we play Sylvania, and we actually play Pisgah, then Sylvania, and both of them obviously have really good football programs and a lot of guys coming back. So, we're looking forward to me personally playing them. That should be a lot of fun.
So, Phil, not only does Plainview jump up to 4A, they have Pisgah and Sylvania on that schedule. They've got quite of a challenge in front of them. They were about a 500 team last year. What has Plainview got to do to compete at 4A?
Well, they don't have a lot of numbers. I think they've got some very talented kids. And, of course, last year, I think the main nucleus of their team was probably their sophomore class. So they're a little bit older, but, numbers is an issue with them. And, of course, Coach Pruitt comes back. And, Coach Pruitt is the type of coach, he is, lay a foundation, the Pee Wee programs and that stuff. And it's going to be a slow build there. But, the big thing I think that's really hurt Plainview more than anything else, they became a basketball school for a little while. And so I think it kind of hurt the football program, but it's starting to slowly come back. Well, yeah, they've got to move up to 4A. But, then again, too, that gets into a level where you're going to have probably some great teams and then teams that are not very good. And so right now, I think Plainview's kind of in the middle. But the biggest thing with them is numbers. But I think they're going to be competitive. They're going to be a well-coached football team.
Howie, is 4A better than 3A? I mean, because 3A next year is loaded.
I don't think it is. And kind of to Phil's point, 4A, you're going to have some great teams and you're going to have some bad teams. But the thing with Plainview is over the last several years while Coach Dale Pruitt's been there, their non-region schedule, they usually play a 4A school somewhere. So, it's not something new to them. It's just going to be new to playing them week in and week out compared to playing them maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
You're 100% right. Now we're going to jump over to another program that struggled a little bit last year. Won 4 in a row at one point, Phil, but then outside of that, they kind of fell apart. Ended up making the playoffs, but they got a big hurdle in front of them, and that's the Chiefs at North Jackson.
Well, we're excited to be here. We're going on year 4, and a lot of this is due to these guys right here. This is the first group that we've had, since they were freshmen, and they're battle tested. They've been through a lot in the 4 years that they've been playing at North Jackson. Lots of highs, lots of lows, a lot of right in the middle, and this group, we brought them today because they really represent who we are. They've shown a lot of grit, a lot of character, especially in the up and down season that we had last year. Got off to a rough start and then went undefeated in the month of October and ended up being the 3rd seed going into the playoffs. And that speaks to their hard work and their character and their resiliency.
Phil, that says a lot about that team. But let's be honest, this is a team that, they don't play at 6A, but their biggest rival is a 6A school, and they get judged by what they do versus Scottsboro. And I'm not sure that they're not a level below that level right now.
Well, Scottsboro's 5A.
5A.
But North Jackson, last year they started out 0-5, and they come to a crossroads. But they pieced it together. They put it together. Everything started clicking. Coach Hollis talked about it. They won their last 5 games. We didn't think they had a chance at all getting in the playoffs, and things had to fall in the right place for it to happen. They ended up 5-5. And I tell you one thing, they've got one good one, and that's number 0, Diego Holt. He is an outstanding football player. And by what Coach Hollis said at the press conference, this team has become player-driven. It's no longer coach-driven. And that's where success comes from. They hit their stride in the middle of the last year, and I think it's going to carry over to this year. North Jackson's not going to be an easy out anymore.
Phil, North Jackson's got to be excited because they actually have a region game that's not an hour and a half away. They can actually just play in Plainview, being in the same region. So, they're not going to have to travel, as far as they have in the past just to play a region game.
Hey, Howie, and
yeah, definitely so. That helps.
We talked to Luke last night, Coach Pruitt, and talked about Pisgah playing North Jackson and how much it excited his kids to go down there and play the old Bridgeport rivalry. And Phil, too, is it good North Jackson's got somebody locally to play now?
Oh, yeah. Coach Hollis wants that. So he was disappointed that South Pittsburgh wouldn't play him anymore, because that was a big money game. I think he told me 2 years ago they netted $3,500 off that game. So, it's a big money game. And, those cross-state rivals are huge. And North Jackson doesn't have a whole lot of natural rivals unless they play a Pisgah and Scottsboro. Because a lot of their games are way off in travel. They've always been in 4A, so there's not a lot of local teams to play.
All right, guys. The next one, Howie, we just talked to this guy, Coach Nelson at Sylvania. And there's a lot of excitement around Coach Nelson and the program at Sylvania. But it's also a lot to fill in. And Coach Nelson's, I want to play you this clip and get both of you's reaction. And I thought it was real appropriate to the challenge they faced, which is rallying the team a little bit to him.
In your first season?
Well, it really means a lot, really, from just leadership. Since I've got there, they've had my back, and that's it. Change is always hard, and I think they've really bought in what we're trying to do. So that it's really helped me out, really get the guys. I think we have a great locker room, just this senior group. I don't know if it'd be what it looks like today without the senior group really stepping in and everything they've done for me and the staff. And I think we have a really good staff that we've been able to put together. And I think some of that has to do with this senior group. I think some of these coaches are wanting to coach really just, a senior group who won a lot of games and they do stuff right. I ain't never going to get them ready to go. They're always ready to go and ready to get better every single day. So that makes my job easier.
Howie, we just talked to Coach Nelson. They were about a few hours from going out for Midnight Madness up at Sylvania. The one thing we forget about Coach Nelson, this practice tonight is the first time he's going to have a football team in pads with him as a head coach. And that's very important. They rally around him a little bit.
Yeah, and you can tell by the players that they're excited to be with Coach Nelson. And it's one of those things where he's going to be hard on them, but he's also going to let them have some fun as well. This is the first time I have personally ever heard of a Midnight Madness for a football team going out at midnight at stroke of midnight at 12:01 and starting your first practice. And I said, and I spoke with him in his office last week, and I'm like, what's going to happen after you get done? He said, we're all going to stay here at the field house all night, have a celebration type party type thing, a little bonding time. And then in the morning, on Wednesday morning, they get Wednesday off because they technically already practiced on Wednesday. And so I'm not going to have the kids out driving at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They're going to be here with us. So, basically to my point, he's going to have fun with the kids, but also be real disciplined on them as well.
Phil, you are every week on QSB, and every week you see the scores coming in. You saw the success that Sylvania's had over the last 24 months. What is your expectation for the Rams football season?
Well, the good thing is Tyler Van left, but the cover's not bad. A lot of times when you have a new coach come in, he's got to teach his kids a new system, got to teach them how to win, and there's a lot of factors involved. Well, this time he's going to tweak the system, but these kids already know how to win. And when you've got kids like Aiden Parham, who are great leaders, and somebody you can count on if you have to, and you need, he's going to carry all 35 times. So this team's used to winning, and it's habit forming. So when Coach Nelson talks about these kids do everything he asks them to do, well, they're used to doing that. That's the way they have been, trained and groomed. So Coach Nelson's job is not going to be quite as hard transitioning into this job because he's not inheriting a 1-9 team. So these kids know how to win. It's just, let's see how it goes. But sometimes when you have a coaching change, you're going to have a lot of question marks.
Phil, I think I gave Coach some great advice after the show was over today. I told him number 2 was pretty good and you should hand the ball off to him a lot. And, tongue in cheek, but everybody got what I was saying. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this team has been very good, and I don't expect them to have much of a drop off at all.
Well, let's talk about a team I know very little about, and you said it. It's about building a tradition, about building, the ability to win, and that's the Woodville Panthers. And I got a little clip here I'll play.
I think our team is pretty good where it is right now. There's always room for improvement everywhere you do. Everything you do, there's always room for improvement. So really excited to see how good we improve and match up against the teams and the new teams in the region and stuff.
My opinion is that we have done better than previous seasons before, and that we are hoping to do better this year.
We're facing a lot of hard teams this year, and we lost a lot of good players, but we also got a lot of good ones coming up. So I'm excited to see how good we do.
I'm very confident about this upcoming fall. I think we got a lot of skill, a lot of broody guys that can really move those linemen out of the way. So I think we got this.
Phil, Coach Poole, and let his young people speak there. But it really is a program that just needs to have success, I guess is the word I'm saying.
Yeah, well, Coach Poole, and now Coach Poole is an outstanding coach, and there's no doubt about it. They're going to be a lot stronger, but and like he talks about, what makes it hard for Woodville is they don't have that alumni where my dad played for Woodville, my grandfather played for Woodville, and that's hard. Well, last year they lost a lot of skilled people. I think they had about 7 seniors, but Coach Poole is building a solid program. Their strength is going to be their beef up front. That's going to be the strength of this football team. But they won 6 games last year. This team has become hungry. And what I hear from coaches around, they don't think about Woodville as being an easy win anymore. They know they're going to have to go play. And like I said in the press conference, that's an attribute to the kids. So Coach Poole has got them going in the right direction.
Howie, what do you know about Woodville?
They've only had a team for the last 15 years, I think, 15, 16 years, and didn't have very many wins along that time. But then they hired Tyler Van to come in, and they went 5-6 his first season and made it to the playoffs. First time that they even thought about making the playoffs. So, Coach Van kind of put a little imprint on them at that point to, hey, we can win. It don't matter how big or small we are, we can win if we put our mind to it. And then they've kind of built off of that every year since then. And, the players seem like they love Coach Poole because, as one of them said, it's great having a coach that's a hog squad just like we are.
Yeah. I should be their announcer. That's
because they called him, I think they called him Peepaw last year. The 2 things that are great for Woodville, they have a great community support, and also their football facilities are nice for a 1A school.
Well, Phil, we're going to talk about a 1A school you might know a little bit about next. And a coach that we've had on here a couple of times that if there's ever good guy vibes in this world, it's Coach Hammond. And he seems to, it's just a perfect fit with him up at Valley Head. And he brought 3 senior linemen. There's a couple of people brought linemen, was like, yeah, this is my offensive lineman. But let's listen to a word, Coach Hammond, then I'm going to come back. I want to ask you about Valley Head's outlook. I also want to get your opinion on Coach Hammond.
For having us. We usually bring our captains. We haven't picked captains this year, so a lot like Coach Willingham, we opted to bring the senior offensive lineman, and we had 4. So starting down here is Rydell Segura. Rydell plays guard. Brody Battles. Brody will play tackle for us. Seth Hall. Seth will play tackle for us, and Colin Tuberville. Colin will play guard for us. So this is our senior offensive lineman that came with us today. Opening comments. We're excited about football to get started. Some people say it goes by quick. It seems to have been slow this summer with the weather and the rain and hot for a while. In and out of the weight room pretty much all summer. So I know these kids, and I know the people in Valley Head and the people in all the other communities in DeKalb County are excited about football to get started. So it'll be here really quick. So we've had a good summer. June, we went 2 days a week, and really all we did was lifted, give them off 4th of July. We started back in July, and we went 3 days a week, brought them in at 3 o'clock, put them in the heat. We started our running program. We done 1 7-on-7 at Dade County. Seen some pretty good competition. We played South Pittsburgh, Marion County, Cleveland, which is one of the biggest schools in Tennessee, Dade County, and Howard.
Coach, Coach just has an infection, and hey, I don't want him to schedule me no 7-on-7s if I'm a 1A school going up to play Cleveland in a 7-on-7. That's like David versus Goliath a little bit. But Phil, Coach really feels like a great fit at Valley Head.
Yeah, well, he's not going to do much of that 7-on-7 stuff. It's mostly going to be running the football, control the clock, play good defense. That's just his philosophy. He wants to get to that final 12 minutes with a chance, and he thinks his weight program is going to win a lot of games in the fourth quarter, and it has. They've come back several times in the second half and beaten teams because of attrition. And that's where his success has been. Yeah, they lost 12 seniors last year, but he's got 12 seniors coming back. And his weight program gets them started early. So he just kind of plugs people in and waits for the experience to shine. But they've got a good nucleus coming back on both sides of the football. A lot of playmakers, especially. They lost a little bit up front on both sides of the ball, but their playmakers have returned. So, I think the expectations are high. I think he's been region runner-up twice and the region champion once, and they're going to be in the mix again. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They've got to deal with Spring Garden, who's in the region. Of course, Ragland's going to be good. Appalachian will be good. But I think the outlook's good for the Valley Head Tigers. And what you were talking about with Coach Hammond, what impresses me about him, yeah, he wants to win every football game, but he's interested in how these kids become men in the game of life. And, and that's what this is all about. If he goes 5-5, that's fine, but he wants to be playing his best football in November. And one thing that's been a snag for them, they've gotten to the second round 2 consecutive years. He wants to knock down that barrier.
Howie, that's exactly the question I was going to ask you. Is this the year Valley Head gets out of the second round?
It's kind of unheard of a 1A school losing 12 seniors and then bringing 12 juniors up to replace them.
That is.
It's kind of odd, but this could be their year because of the experience that they're going to have coming back to help them get over that hump. And, I just hope it don't get in their minds that, make it to the first round win, then, oh boy, here's the second round. What are we going to do? I hope that don't get in their mindset.
Understand. Fellas, the next program I feel like we have not done a good job covering. And it's the one program that in 2024 we need to bring more attention to it. And it's been successful. And I love their young coach and Coach Davis. But Phil, give you a little clip here. Coach Davis is talking about expectations, of course, for the Geraldine football
from 2022 to 2023, the success that we had in 22, and getting that feeling of success going into 2023, how to handle in the big stage, how to handle the cameras when they're on you, how to handle your business when all their eyes are on you. It's easy. I tell these guys all the time, it's easy to get on top. It's easy to climb there when no one expects you to. But when you get there, what's hard is to stay there, because everyone has you circled. Everyone wants to knock you off. So are you doing everything each and every day to make sure that you're successful? Are you taking care of your business on and off the field, making sure that you're successful?
Phil, Geraldine's been in that region, and unfortunately they're a top 6 or 7 team in the state, but they have been there with Sylvania. And, of course, that 3A region just got tougher with Fife moving to it. But Geraldine is a program. I love their coach. And when I hear him talk, I really get fired up about the Geraldine Bulldogs' future.
Yeah, well, they're so disciplined. Coach Davis is an outstanding coach. Those kids really respond to him. And the thing is with them, they lost a lot last year, but they're still going to be competitive. They were really one fourth down play away from icing that Madison Academy game and playing for a state championship. And it's just a very disciplined football team. Of course, they're going to have to find some, new and different ways to do things. But I am really a Michael Davis fan. I got to talk to him after the press conference was over with, and he's going to come on our show. He said he'd be glad to. But he's an outstanding coach. Those kids are very disciplined. It's a great program. And I don't care who you are. The first game of last year, I know Geraldine had a lot of kids come back. I've had a lot of question marks. But you line up and play with Fife, you've done something.
Yes. We get so caught up in Sylvania because you and I obviously have done a Sylvania football show for the last 2 years, but maybe we've not actually had to focus on Geraldine and how good this program has been over the last 24 months.
Yeah, they've been really good. Made it to the semifinals last year, made it to the quarterfinals. I think it was a year before that. Coach Davis is doing an outstanding job there. They got some holes that they got to fill in some key positions, but they're kind of like Fife. They would get so far ahead last year that they could put some other players out there. So it's not going to be a whole new experience for them all. So maybe that'll help them out this season.
Yeah, and when we go, before we leave here, we're going to go do some predicting, and I'm interested to see how y'all predict that region, or if you have anybody in that region, where do you think they're going? Want to talk about another school? I think they moved down to 1A. In Otter, is that correct, Phil? They moved down this year?
Moved down to 1A, yes.
So they'll be in there with Valley Head and Spring Garden in that group, in that mix. But I love Coach Grant. He really seems to be pointing in the right direction. But it's a program that had its struggles. What's your outlook?
Be a captain, we had to apply and really show them that we are leaders and that we're selfless and want to put the team first. But I'm glad we got it, because I know me and Gary both, we want the team to win, and we'll do anything that it takes to win. So we just, as captains, we'll push all the other players to do better and put them before ourselves.
Yeah, basically the same thing he said. It was a hard process, but I'll show Coach Grant every day that we're leaders, and even if we didn't get it, I'll be proud of the people that did, because you don't need to be a captain to be a leader. But I obviously want to win, but I just want my team to play hard as long as they can, and I think we're capable.
So what is your outlook for that team? And I wanted to ask you about this. He made them apply to be captains. They had to go through a process. You're always talking about player-led teams. Is this trying to become a player-led team?
Yeah, he's trying to get away from that habit of losing. He don't want it to become a habit because they've had a couple of struggling years. Year before last, it was injuries. Yeah, he's changed things up. He's working them harder. And when he told us about that, I thought that's very unique that you made 8 players apply. That's how many applied. And they had to come in individually and talk to the coaching staff to convince them why they should be captains. And I think that's what he's pushing toward, is to try to get them to communicate on the field. This team needs some success. They need to play well early. Like we said, they don't have to, win the first 2 or 3 ball games, but they need to play with some confidence, something they haven't had. So Coach Grant has really put them through it. He's got a very young class, 9th and 10th graders, that I think in the future is going to make this program solid. The thing is, then they drop down to 1A. They lose a couple of their natural rivals. Of course, what's going to hurt them is at the gate. But it's going to give them an opportunity to maybe get their feet on the ground, because there's 2 or 3 or 4 of the teams they can play. They're going to be on an even keel with, but still the region's still tough when you look at Valley Head, Ragland, Spring Garden, Appalachian. It's going to be a tall order, but maybe, and I think that's what this team needs, is a shot of confidence. Coach Grant believes in him. He's a great man, and like he says all the time, he goes, I want to win, but the biggest thing I want them to do is play hard on every down, and I can deal with the consequences, if we lose. He goes, I just can't stand it when we go out there and lay down.
Perfect. Well said, Phil. Howie, this is a program, if you look at the athletic program at Otter, the football is the outlier. The other programs are so good that football is just fell off, but the girls won a state championship in basketball, huge tradition in softball. It's really a program you expect to be better, I guess the word I say.
Yeah, Coach Grant. I'm sorry, Phil. You expect Coach Grant. You expect, Coach Grant is expecting high expectations this year, and you can hear it in his voice there at Media Day and when he was on this show a couple of weeks ago. He said at Media Day, he said, I'm old school. He said, I don't do this 7-on-7 stuff. He said, we get out there and we go against each other, and that way we make each other better by doing that. And so, like Phil said, I think Coach Grant said he only had like 3 or 4 seniors on the team, a handful of juniors, and everything is freshmen and sophomores. So Otter football is trending on the upward level, and as hard as he's making them work, good things are going to happen for that team this year.
And Phil, the football team is the outlier to the other programs there.
Yeah, the thing is, it's been hard for them to keep the boys in Otter, and naturally everybody's going to jump ship and going to go to who's winning. And, you look at the teams around them that have been so successful, but there's some changes that have been made. They're maybe getting more kids now from the Henniger area than in the past. So that's going to help a lot. But yes, the girls program overshadows the boys programs, but traditionally Ider has been competitive in football. I mean, one thing you can say about Ider, they're going to play their guts out and they're going to hit you. I remember the 3 years I played them, they got after you, and so that's a tradition they have. It's going to continue. I just, they need some numbers and they need some success. And early in the season, they need some confidence builders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's well said. Be interested to see where they end up in 1A. Now let's move up the road a little bit. You talked about Henniger. When they're at Henniger, they're either going to go down the mountain or up the mountain. So a lot of those kids end up at Pisgah. And last night we had Luke Pruitt on, and we interviewed him. And of course, we asked him about his depth chart, and so impressed. He ran through his whole lineup and in the 2D. He knows just that much about this program. In his answer, Howie texted me during media days and said, Luke just got on the stage and he owns the room. And that's what I think of Coach Pruitt. So y'all bear with me. His answer is a little long, but it's so well said.
Got to Pisgah, one of the things that drew me there was the success in the past and the community support with our sports programs. But that first year, most of my coaching staff have been with me from day one. And if they were not with me from day one, I talked to them. My defensive line coach, Davey Arnold, showed up the first day and met me and said he was over my Pee Wee program. And these guys were 5th graders the first year I was there. And, they had been winning the Super Bowl all the way through. But, the Pee Wee program was where it needed to be. And just trying to get everybody, it's unique at Pisgah. We have small communities that go through the 8th grade at their schools. You have Rosalie, Pisgah, Dutton, Flat Rock, and Henniger. And they're K through 8 schools. Well, we don't get everybody till they're 9th graders. And, you have your own identity. Like sitting up here, he lives in Pisgah, he lives in Rosalie, he lives in Dutton. But getting the identity that we're one.
Phil, that is real well said by Coach Pruitt. He takes 4 or 5 different K through 8 schools and binds them into a high school, where like at Sylvania, it's K through 12. But here's the thing I'll say about Coach Pruitt. If there's a coach that's going to get the breakthrough state championship win in the next couple of years, it's going to be him. I just feel like, he's on the cusp of building a power that's going to be there for many years. Yeah.
Well, and people's going to talk about, 5 moving up to 3A is a help to Pisgah, but down the road, still got the region schedule. Their non-region schedule is tough. 2 teams you're going to look at in the playoffs are going to be Coosa and Tuscaloosa Academy. That's going to be 2. It's going to be nemesis for them. But what I like about this team, and we talked about it when we talked to Coach Pruitt, is they picked it up defensively last year against 5, and I didn't think they had that in them. They held Logan Anderson in check for most of the game. One of the drives was a 10-yard drive because of a backwards punt. And so Pisgah was right in that game, and their defense kept them in their game until the offense found their identity. And, and I've always said, if you're going to win a state championship, you've got to be able to stop people. I think this year, and I wanted to say this to Coach Pruitt, that Adam Gilbert's going to be in a situation this year where he has a, say, 3rd down and 6. He might make a little more of a conservative call when in the past it's like against Tuscaloosa Academy, we need to score here, because we don't know if we can stop them. Well, I think I think Piz is going to have in the arsenal, let's play it a little conservative here. Let's punt it to them because I have confidence that our defense is going to stop them. And when you do things like that, you tell those kids, hey, coach has confidence in us. Let's go out there and stop them. And if they're going to win a championship, they're going to run into issues like this. And that's why I like this team, because of the way they finished against Fife at the end of the year. Oh, yeah, it would have been nice to have been playing for a state championship. But this team, I think, grew up last year. But, I'm going to tell you this right now. Coach Benefield will probably tell you, Pisgah made Fife better last year, too, by playing them both times. Pisgah gave them a challenge on defense the second time, and they really took it to them on offense the first time. So, this Pisgah team, they play Fife right off the bat. That's going to show some of their shortcomings. But this football team, the sky's the limit.
Howie, if you're going to match up with Coach Benefield, you got to match up in the weight room in the off season, and that's something Pisgah has succeeded at.
Yeah, the big thing how Fife wins games is by dominating the offensive and defensive line, and that's something that Pisgah can hold their own with this year because they've got several starters coming back. I think he said he lost one lineman on the offensive side and maybe one on the defensive side, but the way he rotates everybody in and out, you got starters, but then you got starter B as well, not necessarily the same starter. So, depth this year for Pisgah is going to be a huge, huge advantage for them.
Excellent. All right, guys, we got 3 teams left, and then we're going to go to a pick segment. In that segment, I'm going to give you a little bit of heads up. I'm going to ask you what team is going to win a region that we don't expect right now. So I want you to think about that. And, of course, who's going to win regions. And I also want to think about breakout players. And the reason I say this is I think the quarterback at Collinsville is one of those, could be a breakout player. He's already been well established. But Coach Willingham, I believe it's his grandson, if I'm correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So let's listen to Coach Willingham, who brought his offensive linemen, and shout out to Coach Willingham, bringing all your linemen.
Sometimes we don't get as much as we think we ought to get, but thank y'all for being here. And I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves, starting down here.
My name is Sean Stewart, and I play right guard and linebacker.
My name is Justin Pruitt. I play center and defensive end.
My name is Freddie Rivera. I play nose guard and left guard.
My name is Caleb Cromer. I play right tackle and defensive end.
My name is Samuel Stewart. I'm a junior. I play left tackle and defensive end.
Okay, first thing, a little bit about these guys. This is my offensive line, and this has been my offensive line for the last, all of them, 2 years, and some of them 3. And we, like I said, I didn't think we get the credit we deserve sometimes. These guys work really hard, and all our young guys, we've got young skill guys. We were 8-2 last year. We only lost to the 2 semifinal teams in the north. We lost to Fife and Pisgah, and the year before we lost to Fife and Pisgah. So, we've been almost there before and playing really, really young guys. And I thought we were a lot better last year than we were the year before, but the record didn't show that. And I think we're ready maybe to take the next step because of these guys. And they worked really hard this summer, and we appreciate that.
Does a lot, Phil, when you lose. 2 years in a row, you've lost to Fife and Pisgah and Fife and Pisgah. That means you're on the edge.
Yeah, definitely. So, and to be more competitive with your Fife and Pisgahs, and I asked Ernie about it, and because I wanted to know, they've got a lot returning on defense. I think several starters returning on defense. If this team's going to be successful, they've got to be better defensively. And I asked him about that, and he addressed that. He knows it. He's talked about it. They've stressed the offseason because, that's where it's going to come with them. They've got the offensive weapons and they've got the explosiveness. Mason McAteer is an outstanding quarterback. That's Coach Willingham's grandson. They have a special relationship. It's hard to believe that he's only a sophomore. And I'm going to tell you something. He's a heck of a baseball player also. But this team, the sky's the limit, I think. They may surprise some folks. But I think if they can improve defensively, they got a shot to have a great year.
Interesting. Howie, Collinsville's not in our wheelhouse. We don't talk about them a lot. But again, what Phil said, 5 Pisgah, got to play great defense.
Yeah, it's playing teams like that year in and year out, it's only going to make you better. And so, that's a good thing that Collinsville's got going for them. Moving up to 3A, I don't know if you mentioned that or not, but moving up to 3A, that's going to be huge for them. Being in the 2A classification, some of their games were a little bit further away. So it'll make it a little easier for them this year. And, one thing that the clip didn't show and Coach Willingham was ecstatic about was that offensive line only gave up, I think he said, 1 sack all year last year. And so, if your offensive line only gives up 1 sack and your quarterback can walk off the field looking the same way he did when he walked on, your offensive line is pretty dang good when you're playing against teams like Fife and Pisgah as well.
Absolutely. Phil, you called his name. Say his name again. Mason McAteer.
Mason McAteer. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard. You talked about his baseball ability. I've heard more about that on the recruiting front than I maybe have on his football end. So that's a kid that's too sport, and we're getting away from that a little bit. But it's good to see someone, especially at the smaller schools, succeed on multiple sports.
Well, he batted over 500 as a freshman last year at Collinsville. So I think it's like 543 or something like that. First team All-State. Of course, Collinsville had a great team. They had an opportunity to beat Mars Hill, but it just didn't fall into place for them. They lost 2-1. But, next year their baseball team is going to be outstanding. But this football team is going to be good too. And I think what's going to help Collinsville be better is the competition. They're going to get to play Geraldine, Sylvania, Fife, and people like that. And I think that's going to make this team a whole lot better.
Bill, absolutely. I think Collinsville may be a sleeper in that 3A, even moving up to 3A. All right, going to head out. We've got 2 more teams to cover. North Sand Mountain, the Thunder and Herd. I love their nickname, love their uniforms always. It's a program that seems to be very good, then kind of okay, and then really not good. But they're kind of all over the map over the last 30 years. But
we got here with us today. We really got a good group of kids. Really looking forward to this year. I think we've got a solid group, and they've worked really hard and really excited about the future. And like I said, I think everybody's pretty excited about all the new. We got, obviously new coach, new stadium, and we really want to say we appreciate our Board of Education for that. Mr. Jason Davidson, and all the other people that had a big hand in that. So I think that's something that it has got us all excited. But, we're just looking forward to this year and taking it one game at a time and just kind of excited about starting this new era.
Bill, tell me about North Sand Mountain and where their program can go.
Well, Coach Kirby did a great job. I think he was 8 years as the head coach. They kind of struggled last couple of years, but they haven't been quite as physical of a football team. Now, this team is going to be very good at the skill positions. They've got a lot of athletes. So if they get in a game to where they can outflank you and out-finesse you, I think they're going to win some football games. Now, physically, I don't know if they're that strong. Of course, you've got a new coach coming in. You really don't know what to expect. Of course, he comes in and he's got to learn his kids. But this team is confident. You know, they've had some success in the past, and even some of the kids talked about it, is where they have success in the past. They haven't forgotten how to win. You know, they made the playoffs last year, finished fourth in that region, got beat in the first round of the playoffs. But, you know, they're used to winning football games. But I'm going to tell you something. Their new stadium is nice, you know, and that brings a lot of pride to the community. I know those kids are excited about it. You know, and it's a new day for North Sand Mountain football. And, of course, like Coach said, Coach Kirby has been there to help him in any way, you know, he could so far. And that makes that transition a whole lot better because he seems to be a very bright coach. He coached under one of the best coaches in the state of Alabama. So, you know, he's got a good breed coming in. So this North Sand Mountain team, you know, it's one of those, that region's wide open. Somebody's got to finish second. Gaston thinks they're going to finish second. Pleasant Valley thinks they're going to finish second. North Sand Mountain thinks they're going to finish second. Sandrock's going to be better. Section's going to be better. So it's a wide open region. I think you put the flag on Pisgah, but everybody else has a shot to have a good year.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of my question to you, Howie. Can they finish second?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Phil said, the region's wide open. Got a lot of skilled people back, and something that Coach Lipscomb's done is he's brought some assistant coaches in that played there and that was there, and that makes a big difference because they know what it's going to take to win. You know, here they are. North Sands made the playoff. I think 6 straight years, and so they've got something to play for as far as to make it to the playoffs again. You know, they don't want to lose. They don't want to be the team to know that the streak was broken with them. And so, you know, bringing in assistant coaches that played there and know what it's about and know the community, that's a big help for him as well.
Absolutely. All right, we're down to our last review and preview. And, of course, we saved only who we could save for last, and that's Coach Benefield, who kind of stole the show from everybody, Howie, with one announcement, and we're going to play that announcement. And that was, of course, Logan's commitment to Clemson. So let's go through that, and then we'll get.
There was 12 this morning, but I'm not sure all of them will be back. But so, as we know right now, 12. Logan would have been here. Logan committed to Clemson this morning just an hour ago. So we're real proud of him and all that he's accomplished, and nothing seems to go to his head. You know, to me, these boys might hear different stories, but I don't see any kind of he's worked extremely hard, just like these two have, and like all of our kids do. Most of our kids do. And
Bill, of course, I'll get your outlook for Fife, but anyone that can come from 2A football in a small community in rural Alabama, and he's going to go play on the big stage, and that's Logan Anderson at Clemson. That's good for a lot of people from the mountain area.
Oh, definitely. So, but when you look around, you see Brody Dalton's at Troy. He starts, plays a bunch down there. Great football player. Then Ike Roll, who was starting at U of B, has transferred to UNA. And a guy told me the other night, said right now he's like third on the depth chart. And I said, give it time. By the time the season gets going, he'll be on the field. I guarantee you, because you can't keep football players off the field, and that's what Ike Roll is. They just don't know him yet. And so Logan Anderson's an outstanding athlete. And I'm wondering if the reason he may have committed is so he can concentrate. You know, he was pretty well, you know, he told us that he was leaning toward Clemson at the time when we talked to him. Wondering if he wanted to make sure he didn't take away from his teammates, wanted to enjoy his senior year, and that way he could shut down all that, and that takes away a lot of distractions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Phil, I agree with you there, you know, and I hadn't really thought about that, but, you know, you make a great point, because until he actually commits somewhere, it was always going to be, you know, kind of a distraction, you know, And so it's great that he made it before the season started, made it before the actual practices started. So, and it's always great for a local kid to sign somewhere, regardless of where it's at. It's great for him to sign. And, so the DeKalb County area could have a lot of people. Hey, we got two Randys on here. DeKalb County could have a lot, and Jackson County could have a lot of kids to go and play college ball after this season. Phil, are you there? Looks like I'm the only one here now. So that was the Media Days wrap-up show. Randy will be back here in a second, hopefully, and Phil will be rejoining us, hopefully, here in a second. I'm by myself. So, a lot of great teams in the area. And, hey, we got Randy back.
Lost Phil.
Lost Phil.
Yeah.
So, but, Randy, what I was talking about was, Jackson DeKalb County could have a lot of kids that'll sign college scholarships after this season because there is a lot of great players in the Jackson DeKalb County area.
Hey, absolutely. And see if we can get Phil back. I might have knocked him off the air. Something we got something in that failed. And evidently my section clip didn't upload, but we'll talk about section for a second. But Fife sitting on the verge of another great season. And I think Phil said it well in that Logan waited not to distract from everybody else.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard what I said, but it's great that he made that decision because until he made that decision, everybody would be asking him and wanting to know and asking and so doing it before the season even started, that I think that was great on his behalf.
Yes, absolutely. Let's get reset here for just a minute. Hey, got everybody back. My section clip failed to upload. We talked a little bit about Five. Let's talk about section. I wish I had my clip to upload, but it evidently failed. Phil, section, again, a coach that's been on here several times. We enjoy, I think section is pointing in the right direction. I remember in the 90s, they got so bad at football that they kind of fought back, got a program moving, and it seems like it's going in the right direction over at section.
Yeah, well, Riley Edwards is a great person. He came in and tore everything down, all the way down to the bottom, and started building a foundation. And, he's one that came in and said, you have no position. You're going to earn, whatever you get. It doesn't matter if you play tackle. It doesn't matter. That's kind of the way he did things. And he's done things kind of a lot of the way the Coach Grant does. And, of course, Coach Grant and Coach Edwards know each other real well. And that's kind of the biggest thing with Coach Edwards. He wants his kids to communicate. Last year they were coach-driven. This year he has really stressed about being a vocal, communicating team because he doesn't feel like his team communicates.
Much of this, but I've taken that thing.
Yeah, all my clips went crazy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, he's got the programming going in the right direction. I think they're going to be much improved, much more competitive. And, of course, they're one of those teams that needs to get off to a good start. They've got a big battle early. I think against Ryder. So it's going to be a tough task. But Coach Edwards is in it for the long haul, and I think he's going to be successful at section.
How every clip I have uploaded for Thursday night now because you have seen them. But, and I had a section clip, but Coach Edwards, and he worked close with the Camp for Jesus, and I thought, he really made when you talk to him for a minute, you just fall in love with the guy. He's just a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's coming from the Collinsville coaching tree of Coach Willingham because he was at Collinsville for a lot of years. So, he's not new to the area, so he knows what's going on. And so, section's got a great community. They're going to get behind that team, and they're going to be with them from start to finish. So, if they work hard, they're going to be like Ider. They work hard, good things is going to happen for that team as well this year.
All right, guys, we're running out of time. Phil, who's the team we didn't talk about winning a region that's got a chance to win a region? I think he's frozen. Phil? Howie, who's the one team to win a region that we didn't talk about winning a region?
Phil stone faced. He's giving you the poker face there. Out of everybody, the team that's got a chance to win one, you got to give Collinsville a great shot at winning the 3A because of that offensive line. It's, like Phil, I've heard Phil mention it many times. He's back with us now, but, like I've heard Phil mention it many times, the games are won in the trenches. And with all those guys that Collinsville's got coming back, that gives them a heads up on winning the region.
Phil, you back with us, buddy?
Yeah, back where they've got internet issues, storms in the area.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
If the wind blows, our internet goes out.
A team we didn't talk about winning a region that can win a region is who?
One of those teams, for some reason, y'all talked about Collinsville. With me, I think they've got a really good opportunity to at least get into where they can host a playoff game. But I don't know. One of those teams that might be a dark horse in a region might be Valley Head. Now, at the end of last year, you would think, well, Valley Head's going to be in there a jockey for a playoff position. But, this team is used to winning and they expect to win. And yes, Spring Garden comes into the region, Raglan comes into the region, and Appalachian comes into the region. But these Valley Head's had success against those teams. And the thing is with Valley Head, they can shorten a game and make you play 4 quarters. And if they stay up with you, it's tough.
All right. I agree with you. That was going to be my pick too.
Right.
Outside of Fife, Howie, who could win? Who could play in Progressive Stadium?
I'm going to go back with Collinsville again because of that line. I had a talk with Brent Tinker back several years ago when he was at Ider, and it was a year that he had all of his linemen coming back, but he lost a lot of skilled people. And I said, Coach, my philosophy is it's easier to teach a running back to hit a wide open hole than it is to teach a lineman how to move the player where they need to. And he said, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So it's one of those things where Collinsville, it's got a little bit of advantage on the offensive and defensive lines by all those linemen coming back. So if anybody around could do it, it could be Collinsville.
Interesting. Phil, who besides Fife could end up playing in Progressive Stadium?
It's protective and in Protective Stadium. Protective Stadium is in Birmingham. But mine is Pisgah because they've been there before. They've been on the cup of being there. And one thing about it is you're going to look at down the road. And right now on paper, Coosa and Tuscaloosa Academy is the 2 teams that they're probably going to be pointing to. Well, Coosa got to the finals in 1A last year, but can they match Pisgah's physicality? And then on the other side with Tuscaloosa Academy, that's going to be a war if them 2 gets together. So, this is kind of my pick.
Yeah, that's great. That you have my answer there. All right, Howie. Between his junior and senior year, Logan Anderson blew up on the recruiting trail. Is there a player that we're all sitting here next year talking about that blew up between this year and that year? Is there somebody that might be a player that we're talking about next year that we didn't bring up tonight?
I'm sure there is. but you never know. And I don't want to mention no players' names because I don't want to jinx them. I want everybody to have a great year. So I'll just leave it at that.
Can you give us a team?
I'm not jinxing nobody.
All right. Phil, do you have anybody you'll jinx?
Well, I don't know about next year, but there's some outstanding players from around here, and just three that stands out to me is Tyler Wilkes at 5. I think he don't get a lot of notoriety. If this year, if he stays healthy, it's going to be 4 straight years of being all-stat. How often do you hear about that? He is a football player. And then you've got Mr. Varnador, quarterback down at Fort Payne, and then, of course, Connor Hughes, the kicker at Fort Payne. That's 3 more that stand out this year. Now, next year, I don't know. And we haven't talked much about Fort Payne. Last year they went wild on offense. Varnador come to the forefront. They had a great year. The thing was they gave up a lot of points. But in the second half of the season, they improved defensively. And so they've got to feel a lot better about into this year that they don't have to score 50 points a game. Fort Payne's going to be very competitive in their region. Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat Gadsden City. But Coach Elmore does a great job at Fort Payne. He's got some great skill people.
Well, before we get out of here, both of you, Scottsboro, you got Coach Van, who we all know, putting in a new offense, going from a triple option offense to a kind of a run and shoot, heavy run offense. What kind of success do you think he'll have at Scottsboro, Phil?
I think he's going to do just fine. The kids have bought in, I'm sure. And it's going to be a lot of fun for him. But I'm sure as good as those guys are at run blocking, he's going to use that as much as he can. But that's something they do know how to do. And you don't fix it overnight. It's tough to pass block when you're a run blocking scheme. So there's going to be a lot of teaching involved into getting those guys in the right places. I know when we tried to throw the football, when I played at Valley Head, it was jailbreak block so. We could drive people off the ball, but if they come at us, we couldn't block a soul. John was running for his life. Sometimes it was comical. We'd have to run bootleg. We had to run bootlegs so John wouldn't get hit.
I'm sure Coach Kirby appreciates that.
Yeah.
Howdy, Scottsboro. What do you think?
You kind of hit the nail on the head there. A run and shoot type deal. You said it's going to be more run heavy. Well, it's going to determine on his personnel.
Yeah.
Coach Van's a former quarterback. He wants to chunk that ball 50 times a game if he can. But when he was at Sylvania, he had a backfield that kind of wouldn't allow him to do it that the last 2 years because of the Braden Thomas and Aiden Parham being back there. But
when you complimented Coach, you got 48 carries in a game.
Yeah, right. And so, that first season he was there, he had Brody Smith that was throwing the ball real well, and so it was, he'll chunk the ball, and I can't think of the guy's name. Jack Jones, I think's his name, the quarterback down at Scottsboro, and they say he can throw the ball extremely well. So it may be more of a pass game than everybody realizes.
I think it's going to be probably a lot of RPOs because Jones can run the football.
Yeah, you're right, Phil. That's a good point. Guys, you know what? We've spent an hour on hour, and what the fan base out there are more than excited and happy for is I haven't said one opinion in the last hour. So great job, guys. You really know your North Alabama football. And you can keep me quieting down. It improves ratings greatly. Phil, Thursday, you got some real special people coming on the show.
Tabitha Derryberry, she's going to be on the show, and her husband's going to come on and give their testimony of her liver and kidney transplant, I believe it was. Should be a great show. I know his testimony will make the hair stand up on your neck. I mean, it's an amazing story, and we're going to be glad to share that on Thursday. A little different speed from sports, but they were in the transplant Olympics, and so it kind of ties into sports some, but it's always great to hear people overcome adversity, things that happen to them in their life, and they continue on and do great things.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I can't wait for that. Howie, we haven't talked about Thursday. I don't even know if we got a topic yet, but we've got our normal wrestling show. But we've got big news, not the Phil's kind of big news, but we have got a special guest coming on the next 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't booked the date, but we've got Justin Race, the son, a handsome Marley Race, going to be on with us for an hour and talk about his dad. Something I'm super excited to do. Great figure in the world of pro wrestling, handsome Harley Race.
I can't wait to interview him and see if he sounds like his dad.
That'd be interesting. That would be very interesting.
So,
hey, don't let me do his dad's impression while he's on here. Don't embarrass myself. Phil, any final words for you tonight?
Oh, well, just looking forward to Thursday with the Dairy Berries, and we don't know who we're going to have on next week. We'll, have to work through that, but of course, it's another great show. We've had some great guests. I know the show with Coach Pruitt was, real popular. I don't know what the last numbers are on that, but we're looking forward to getting Coach Davis on, Michael Davis, and then North Sands coach on, and they, and the good thing is, what's fun about this, Howie, and as well as I do, as many people as we've gotten to know, people don't tell us no. We're open, we're transparent, we're not trying to expose anybody. We just want to hear stories, and it's a lot of fun.
And we don't bring up anything negative, which I get so sick of in the sports world. It's, if you lose a football game, we'll tell you lost a football game or you got out coached. But we're not here to be negative, Phil. And I think a lot of people are glad to talk to positive people. And the fact that if you want to say something good about the Lord and how your team prays, we welcome that.
Yeah. Well, that goes back, that's the way we are at WQSB. We've built a following, built a certain trust, and folks enjoy the show. I hear it all the time. They get in their car on Friday night, turn on the radio, and we heard Coach Pruitt talk about it. That on Friday nights, the first thing his kids, before they even get sit down in their seats, turn on scoreboard. And that's great to hear. Coach Jakeaway told us that a lot of the fans will stay around about 15 or 20 minutes after the game and listen to scores. And that's great to be a part of. I enjoy that part of, but it's great that we inspire others. And this show, I think, does that also. And, and we've talked about this, if you get to know a little bit about somebody, you're going to be less apt to criticize them.
Absolutely. Howie, we just talked to Coach Nelson. We didn't know Coach Nelson from Haslam a few months ago, but I can't wait to start the Coach Nelson show each week.
Yeah, if y'all want a negative show, have Randy send you a link and get on before we go on the air, because that's where all the negativity is between us three. But
yeah.
But no, it's great to get to know these people. I know a lot of them personally anyway, and once you get to know them, kind of like what Phil says, and Randy says as well, once you get to know them more on a personal basis, you realize they're just humans like we are, and they make mistakes occasionally, but they're out to do the best they can to help the kids out, learn a little bit about life as well.
Absolutely. He's Phil Harris. I'm Randall Cunningham. That's Howie Cheney. Join us. We always come here and talk.